Today's final video of the regular segmented show is going over a guy that I really am happy to talk about. He's one of Snoop Dogg's best friends in the league, or at least I think he is, because Snoop Dogg has a nickname for him. Let's talk about QB, Quinton Byfield, the second overall pick at the 2020 NHL Entry Draft by the LA Kings, a guy that was touted as being a potential unicorn of a hockey player. Let's go over what he's done recently, how he's been playing in the AHL ever since getting sent down, and just how dominant he has showcased himself off at that level. Quinton Byfield, as we've talked about a ton over the past few years, is a big dude. 6'5", 216 pounds as a left-handed center. He's only 20 years old, born in August of 2002, making him one of the youngest guys in the entire 2020 NHL Draft. He was touted to going second overall for years, ever since like 2017, 2018-ish. Everybody kind of knew that in the future, there would be this Lafreniere guy probably going first, and then behind him, there would be this new market Ontario product in Quinton Byfield. And as a result, the LA Kings got themselves the prize, getting the second overall pick, and getting a guy who in the last season's worth of play had 82 points in only 45 games. That season, he played for Team Canada at the World Juniors. He didn't showcase all too much because he was only 17 turning 18 years old, but the season after that, he went out there and actually showed off pretty well at that same tournament, scoring a point per game in the process and being a 20-point guy in 32 AHL games. Last year, Quinton Byfield played most of the season in LA, wherein he had 10 points in 40 games, so there was his rookie year for you, quote-unquote. But this season, you had yourselves what was a different sort of development path the Kings decided to put Byfield on. Rather than keep him up in the NHL and stick him around there in the third line-ish as a shutdown role type of player, the Kings decided to send him down to the AHL for what many were calling a quote-unquote conditioning stint. The thing is, the Kings never really gave a solidified timeline as to how long this stint would last. They had the right to send Byfield down whenever they pleased, so they just decided to exercise it and see what he could do with the Ontario Reign. See if he could get his confidence back up, work on his game a little bit more, so when he eventually returns to the NHL, he's a little bit more effective than he had been previously. And so far, after a few weeks, Quinton Byfield has gone out there with the Ontario Reign and absolutely dominated. In 10 games played, the guy has 7 goals, 3 assists for 10 total points, and this was all capped off by the guy's first AHL hat trick the other night against the Bakersfield Condors. Sure, there was an empty net thrown in there, but at the same time, he still got the hat trick. And if you go over to previous Byfield AHL games from this season, you'll see goals that are just absolute showcases of the talent that he had in the OHL being put on display. He's scoring beautiful tip-in goals, he's scoring through the legs goals in the slot, he's scoring snipes, and he's getting, of course, those empty netters as well. QB 55 is really starting to hone his game in a way that magnifies all the skills that he had in the OHL. The light footwork, the puck skills, the handling, the softness, all of that is starting to translate into the AHL, and this is ultimately what we wanted to see out of this guy ever since he was drafted back in 2020. Byfield was kind of touted as being sort of that Evgeny Malkin sort of mold, where he's a big guy, he's a center, but even though he's a big guy, he doesn't necessarily play like a quote-unquote big guy. He plays with a lot of finesse, he plays with a lot of skill. There's so much agility and care every time he touches the puck that he's able to waltz around guys and put up points like crazy. He just happens to be big on the side, which helps him with his reach, it helps him with his puck protection, but he doesn't go out there and absolutely level guys out left, right, and center because of his size. He just happens to be a really talented offensive playmaker who happens to be really big. And I feel like for Byfield, heading into higher levels of play, this was always going to be a challenge as to whether or not he would be able to dominate other men in the same way he dominated kids in the OHL. He was used to being the big fish. He was that for years. When he made his debut in the league, I'm pretty sure he was like 6'3" or something like that at 16 years old. So QB was always in that position where he was reigning over the competition. It's just now we're starting to see that take itself up to the next level. So much to the point now that we're seeing a lot of Kings fans saying, hey, Byfield's been really good. Like, when are they going to call him back up? When are they going to give him another opportunity to showcase this talent at the NHL level? Because last year, he only had 10 points. That's not great. But you still notice that as the year went on, Byfield was sort of adjusting on the fly. He was getting up to speed, he was learning what it meant to be an NHL player in a shutdown role, and for the most part, he was okay. He was good enough, I guess you could say. Definitely not like a second overall caliber performer on the third line, but still a guy who was growing and learning what he needed to learn. In fact, this is what Sean Crocker wrote about in Dobber Prospects from April of 2022. So at the end of last season, Byfield missed the start of 2021-2022 due to a fractured left ankle sustained at the end of the preseason. Byfield has since added 6 points in 11 games with the Reign, earning him a call-up to the Kings early in the new year. Generating what seems to be a measly 8 points in 32 games this season, Byfield has been used largely in a third-line shutdown role. This, however, will not hamper Byfield's ability to eventually become a premier goal-scoring power forward at the NHL level. The hulking center should be given every opportunity in the fall to contribute offensively in a top 6 role. Consider this one of the few remaining buy low opportunities for the 6'4 pivot. While he may not realize his supreme offensive upside immediately, Byfield's ceiling as a premier goal scorer in the NHL remains among the highest of all drafted prospects. Patience is a virtue with Byfield for fantasy owners. When he takes off, he has a chance to become a top 30 player in fantasy hockey. Now, this assessment, of course, is coming from the perspective of fantasy owners, guys that have him in keeper leagues, etc., but pretty much the verdict here on Dobber Prospects is that Byfield is going to become a stud. And I really do think that all the hype that we had seen for this guy back when he was drafted still deserves to be there. Like, at his prime, Quinton Byfield could be manhandling opposition, getting 90, 95 points every single season, and he's going to make it look effortless because he's just that gosh darn talented. We know the NHL is trending towards this direction where smaller guys and quicker guys and more skilled, agility-based guys are able to excel, but guys that happen to have those traits of skill and finesse and puck handling, while also being 6'5", I feel like they have spots in this league too. So for Quinton Byfield, it's just really a matter of time before we see this level of dominance transcend the AHL into the National Hockey League. Sure, the Kings are in a position where they have quite a few players that they need to serve in terms of ice time. You have the Fialas out there, the Kopitars also on center, and then of course you have other younger guys that are probably going to help themselves as the years go on. Turcotte comes to my mind immediately. We made a few videos about him and his development, but Quinton Byfield is right there in that mix as well, and I feel like you should all be excited for him because I definitely am as well. Talk in the comments your thoughts about QB55, the way he's been playing in Ontario, and just the goals that he's been scoring. If you've been paying attention to a lot of the highlights here, you'll probably have noticed just how dominant Quinton Byfield looks out there. The goals that he is scoring, he is so confident, he is putting the puck through his legs, and he is absolutely giving the Reign fans a show. If you had to guess, how long do we have to wait until we start to see those types of goals go in for QB at the NHL level? So far in the National Hockey League, in the 3 seasons he has had, he only has, 5 total goals in the 6 plus 40 plus 8, that is 54 total games played that he has had. I mean, it's only really a matter of time before he goes out there and starts doing more, but right now he's got 7 goals in 10 AHL games, so that's a pretty good benchmark to try to build off of, isn't it? Thoughts in the comment section below about Quinton Byfield. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.